If your compost pile isn't breaking down as fast as you'd hoped, if it smells off, or if it just seems to be sitting there doing nothing, you're not alone. Most gardeners, even seasoned ones, fall for at least one of the major composting myths floating around in books, blogs, and social media. And these myths don't just waste your time. They can slow decomposition, kill beneficial microbes, attract pests, and leave you scratching your head wondering why your pile still looks like a rotting mess after months of effort. Let's be honest, composting seems simple. Throw food scraps and garden waste in a bin, wait a while, and you'll get rich black soil. But in reality, small misunderstandings in compost management can set the whole process back weeks or even months. That's why today we're digging into the 5 most common composting myths and exposing the truth behind them. This guide isn't just about debunking bad advice, it's about getting your compost system working smarter, not harder, so your garden thrives year-round. Myth number 1. You must turn your compost pile constantly to make it work. One of the most popular and exhausting pieces of composting advice is the idea that you need to turn your pile every few days for it to decompose properly. While aerating your compost helps speed up the process, constant turning isn't necessary unless you're in a rush. In fact, overhandling your pile can disrupt fungal networks and microbial colonies that are doing the heavy lifting underground. Cold composting, or lazy composting, is a valid and effective method used by gardeners around the world. By layering nitrogen-rich greens and carbon-rich browns, covering the pile to trap moisture, and simply letting nature take its course, you can produce rich humus in a few months with zero turning. Worms, fungi, and microbes do the job for you. Turning has its place, but it's not a requirement, and definitely not something you need to do every week. The real secret? Proper balance of materials, consistent moisture, and patience. Myth number 2. Compost must be hot to work. We often hear that compost has to reach really high temperatures, somewhere between 130 and 160 degrees Fahrenheit, to decompose properly. And yeah, hot composting is definitely useful if you want to kill weed seeds, pathogens, or break down things like meat and dairy safely. But honestly, it's not the only way composting works. In fact, most backyard piles never get that hot, especially the smaller ones. And that's perfectly okay. Cold composting, trench composting, and sheet composting are all low-heat systems that work exceptionally well. They do take a bit longer, but they also support a broader range of decomposers like earthworms and fungi, which actually prefer those lower temperatures. These creatures help build soil structure, increase water retention, and turn your organic waste into nutrient-dense compost that's a lot like natural forest humus. So if your pile isn't heating up like a furnace, don't panic. It's still composting, just at a different speed and often with even more biological diversity. Myth number 3. You can't compost cooked food, bread, or citrus. This is, one of the most common misconceptions around. Many composting guides will warn you away from adding things like cooked veggies, bread crusts, pasta, or citrus peels. The fear is usually centered around pests or acidity, but the truth is, these items can be composted safely, if you know how to manage your pile. Cooked food breaks down just like raw scraps. The key is to bury it deep within the pile and avoid overloading the system with oily or meaty leftovers. Bread and grains are high in carbon and nitrogen and break down quickly when mixed with shredded leaves or sawdust. Citrus peels, though acidic in large amounts, actually offer antifungal properties that can benefit the pile if added in moderation. What matters more than the ingredient itself is the ratio, coverage, and pile management. If you balance wet scraps with dry browns and avoid attracting pests by burying food waste properly, almost anything biodegradable will break down without issue. Myth number 4. Compost stinks if you're doing it wrong. A common complaint and honestly a big fear about composting is the smell. Many folks believe that a stinky pile means it's failing and that good compost should have no smell at all. But here's the truth. Compost should have a smell, just not a bad one. A healthy compost pile actually has an earthy, forest-like aroma. If your pile smells like rotten eggs or ammonia, it's not because composting is failing as a system, It's really just a sign of imbalance. Too much nitrogen, like kitchen scraps or green grass, and not enough carbon, such as leaf straw or maybe even paper, can cause anaerobic conditions. That's when beneficial aerobic microbes get smothered, and those foul-smelling bacteria kind of take over. The fix is simple. Just add more dry carbon materials, mix gently, and make sure the pile is getting enough airflow. Once the balance is restored, the smell will fade and decomposition will continue just as it should. So, don't fear the scent of compost. Instead, use it as a diagnostic tool. If it smells bad, your pile is basically talking to you. And with the right adjustments, it'll soon return to that sweet, earthy perfume of living soil. Myth number 5. Compost is only for gardeners or big backyards. Another big myth that keeps people from starting is the idea that composting is only for those with large gardens, raised beds, or rural homes. But composting isn't just for people with space, it's honestly for anyone who produces organic waste. That means apartment dwellers, condo owners, even folks living in cities. There are dozens of small-space composting methods that work just as well as traditional piles. Vermicomposting, which uses worms in bins, bokashi, that's fermented composting using bran, and indoor composters with activated charcoal filters are all excellent alternatives. You really don't need a big yard or outdoor bin to reduce your food waste and create living soil. Even balcony bins, stackable containers, or trench composting in potted plants can make a real impact. What matters is the intention and understanding that composting is a system rooted in ecology, not acreage. Wrapping it up, know your compost, know your soil. Composting is a natural, time-tested way to build soil, reduce waste, and support a living garden ecosystem. But when you're operating under common myths, it's easy to get frustrated and give up. By understanding the truth behind these myths, you're already several steps ahead of the curve. So, you now know you don't need to turn your pile constantly. You've learned that cold composting works beautifully. You've discovered that bread, cooked food, and citrus can actually go in your pile. You've figured out that a smelly pile isn't the end of the world, it's just a signal to adjust. And best of all, you understand that anyone can compost, no matter the size of their space. If this guide cleared up your doubts or, gave you the motivation to fix that neglected bin in your yard, make sure to hit that subscribe button and share this video with your fellow gardeners. Hydrohaven is all about helping you grow smarter, not harder, and your compost pile might just be the secret weapon your soil has been waiting for. Thanks for watching and keep composting the smart way.